everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Snow. Welcome to the show. I hope you didn't have your volume turned all the way up because that would have been probably very loud. Also, hopefully this is not your first episode that you've ever listened to with me because you are going to be like, why is this lady so weird? I don't know. The actual truth is I batch these episodes. And so after like the 90th episode that I've recorded, I just get kind of weird. That's actually probably what's going on. So listen, today we are talking about virtual networking events, and I am excited for this conversation because, as you know, if you've been following me for a while, I host a virtual speed networking event for female entrepreneurs once a month. If you're listening to this the week that it comes out, our next virtual speed networking event is next week, June 13th. They're always on the second Thursday of the month. At this moment, if you're listening a year from now, maybe not, but at this moment, they are always the second Thursday of the month from 11 to 12 Mountain Time, and they are super fun. I am all about networking like a human and not like a salesy weirdo, and part of that is knowing how to navigate a virtual networking event because virtual events are a different animal than in-person events. But they're also a really great way to grow your business without having to leave the house. And I am all about not having to leave the house. So today we're going to talk about what virtual networking is, some common misconceptions about virtual networking, some of the benefits of virtual networking, and then I'm going to share some of my top tips for getting the most out of your virtual networking experience. So here we go. Let's talk first what virtual networking is. For the purposes of this podcast, if you have heard me talk before, you know often I say networking really is any opportunity that you have to connect with other people. And that really is true. So it doesn't always have to be like a formal networking event or a networking group or a networking meeting. But for the purposes of this podcast, that is what we're talking about. We're talking about online groups, online events, people getting together for the purpose of networking for business. So, other examples of the opposite of that would be like joining a hiking group in your town, right? It's not really specifically for business, but it's also a way for you to create connections with people. So for the purpose of today, what we're talking about is actual networking events that occur online. And there's a lot of misconceptions about virtual networking. And a lot of people think that it is not a good fit for them or that it's not going to be the best use of their time. And most of the people are wrong about that. So let me tell you why. A lot of people think that they're not going to like virtual networking or that it won't be worth their time because they are used to the dynamic energy of networking in person. Or a lot of times people have had experiences networking online that have not been great. And so they just assume networking online is not great. A lot of people don't like that virtual networking lacks the personal touch of face-to-face interactions. There's a common belief that it is harder to make a real connection when you are just a face on the screen. And let's be honest, it can sometimes feel awkward to talk into a computer screen and not get that immediate natural feedback through energy or body language or just the magic that happens when you are face-to-face in a room with a human. And in my experience, the world has become so much more comfortable on Zoom since 2020. And my experience has also been that the more you do it, the more natural it feels. I do so much on Zoom that now when I'm having a conversation with somebody on Zoom, it honestly doesn't feel that different to me than if I were having a conversation with them in person. The difference is I haven't had to drive 20 minutes, buy a $7 cup of coffee, sit in a very loud coffee shop trying to hear what the other person is saying, and then spend 20 minutes driving home. So that's part of the reason that I like it, but we'll get into that in a second. Sometimes people worry about the technical aspects, about their internet connection, not being able to navigate the online platforms, or sometimes it's just the fatigue of being on video calls. And I get that. There's also the idea that these events are too structured, maybe too chaotic, maybe too impersonal, but a lot of that depends on the format. So here's the thing. A lot of these concerns stem from either unfamiliarity with the format or previous bad experiences. And it's like I used to tell my dating coaching clients, just because your last date was bad, that doesn't mean anything about how your next date is going to be. That has no bearing on whether the next date is going to be good or not. And this is true with virtual networking events as well. Even with in-person networking events, you have to try different events until you find the one that is right for you, until you find your people, until you find the structure and the agenda and the format that works best for you, because that is different for different people. And it's the same thing with virtual networking. Sometimes you have to try several different events before you find the one that is the best fit for you. The truth is, virtual networking can be incredibly rewarding if it's approached with the right strategies. The benefits of virtual networking events, at least the ones that are done well, are often ones that in-person events can't match. For example, one major benefit is accessibility. Online networking is going to bring you together with people that you would never have the opportunity to be face-to-face in a room with. Geographical location no longer matters. Time zones no longer matter. On our last virtual speed networking event, we had 76 women from 9 different countries. We had one woman who, although the event was at 11 o'clock a.m. my time, it was at 3 a.m. the next day, her time. And I don't know if she got up early or she stayed up late, but either way, she made it to that event. So it gives you the opportunity to connect with industry leaders from around the world without stepping out of your living room. It also allows people who normally wouldn't be able to attend in-person networking events, maybe because they have kids, they have 9-to-5 jobs, they homeschool, an opportunity to show up and connect, and gives you the opportunity to show up and connect with those people that may not be able to attend a in-person event ever. So this means that you get a wider, more diverse network, which can lead to unexpected and valuable opportunities. Another advantage is efficiency. There was a survey conducted by Forbes that found that 80% of participants said that virtual networking saved them a considerable amount of time and money. Virtual events usually stick to a tight schedule if the person running them sticks to the tight schedule, which allows you to meet more people in less time than traditional networking events. Plus, without the travel, you're saving both time and money. The last benefit I have found is that for many of us, especially those who find large crowds stressful, virtual settings can feel less intimidating. They can allow you to engage more confidently with less pressure because you're not in a room full of people. If you are more on the introverted or shy or neurodivergent side, or maybe you're just somebody who feels awkward at a lot of other networking events, I encourage you to give virtual networking a try. Sometimes in-person events can be off-putting because sometimes there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of noise, or there's just cliques and existing relationships that dominate the room. At virtual events, there tends to be a much more level playing field. So how do you find the right events for you? First, start by getting clear about what your goals from networking are and who it is that you want to be connecting with. That's going to help you narrow down your search and get the most bang for your buck. If you only work with women or you only want women in your network, then there's no sense in spending time at a networking event where half the people you're going to meet are men. If you're more interested in learning something, in getting business advice, in finding more of a mastermind type call, then that's a different kind of event than one that is designed purely for networking. So keep that in mind too. Once you know what you're looking for, there's a lot of places that you can look. A lot of professional associations, like for event planners or veterinarians, or even Facebook groups that are relevant to your field, host webinars or networking sessions for professionals in their industry. You can also search social media platforms, especially LinkedIn. That can be a goldmine for event announcements, especially ones that are particularly business related. You can also search on Google, on Eventbrite, on Meetup. And remember, diversity in networking can lead to richer, more creative interactions. So step outside your immediate circle and the places that you typically look for networking opportunities to find new people to meet with. All right, let's talk about, now you've found the event, how do you show up most effectively? How do you network on a virtual event like a human and not like a salesy weirdo? First of all, let's talk about how you show up on camera because that can significantly impact your first impression. My first tip, which sounds very obvious, is keep your camera on. But I can't tell you how many times people I have seen show up to virtual networking events with their camera off or with their camera on, but they're driving and they're only half paying attention. Keeping your camera on makes interactions a lot more personal and it helps people build trust with you. I also recommend avoiding virtual backgrounds. A simple, clean, real background is much less distracting and much more authentic. I have very rarely seen a virtual background done well, and a lot of times it is done poorly in the sense that when you move, half your body disappears. If you lean back too far, your face disappears. It's very distracting and it's not doing you any favors. Along those same lines, pay attention to your lighting. You want front-facing, natural light. That's what's going to make you look the most approachable. And then also dress professionally, at least from the waist up. No one cares what you're wearing from the waist down. Just don't forget and stand up if you're wearing pajama pants. Also, you want to minimize distractions. As I was saying before, don't attend a virtual networking event while you're driving. Turn off your notifications, close your unrelated tabs, and make sure that your environment is quiet and free of distraction. These little things show that you are serious, that you want to make genuine connections, and that you are respectful of other people's time. Talking on camera isn't always natural, but with a few tricks and some practice, it can feel much more comfortable. One tip that I have is placing a picture of someone you speak a lot with, like a friend or a family member, or even just like a smiley face sticker next to your web camera. This can help you maintain eye contact with the camera and make your interaction feel more normal because you feel like you're talking in a weird way to a person. I also would encourage you to check out episode number 55 of this podcast. It was an interview that I did with Simone Bueno, who is a camera confidence coach, and it was all about how to be more confident on camera, and she's got some great tips. Some other tips I would share with you about how to make the most out of your virtual networking time. 1, practice your introduction and your key points before the event. You don't want it to sound rehearsed, but you do want to reduce your anxiety and improve your delivery so that when you are explaining who you are and what you do, it's very clear. If you want some extra help with this, go to episode number 58 of this podcast. It's called Mastering the Elevator Pitch, and it will tell you exactly what you need to do ahead of time to be prepared to introduce yourself in the most effective way without sounding like a salesy weirdo. Another tip I have for you is how you use the chat. Do not put your contact information or any other sort of salesy weirdo stuff in the chat unless you are invited to by the host. In fact, I recommend not even using the chat unless you're invited to by the host. It can be very distracting and things can go very off the rails very quickly in the chat. If you want to just put in the chat when you first get there, like, hey, so happy to be here, or you want to use the chat to say like, yeah, I totally agree, or at the end to say, thanks, this was a great event. That is a great way to show that you are engaged without being super distracting. Engagement is key in virtual networking. As I just mentioned, be prepared with a clear, concise introduction, but not a memorized elevator pitch. Use the chat to not be distracting or take away from what is being said in the event, but to show that you are engaged, that you're listening, and that you're on board. You can also use the Zoom reactions to do the same thing. There's the heart, there's the celebration, there's the clapping. You can use those as a very non-distracting way to show that you are engaged in the conversation. Active listening is crucial. Show that you are interested. Nod. React to what other people are saying, even if you're just clicking one of those react buttons. If you go into breakout rooms, watch the time and make sure that you don't go over the amount that is allotted for you. All of these things are very important in making sure that other people see you as somebody that they want to connect with again after this event. Someone that they will remember because you are kind, because you are considerate, because you are engaged in what they were saying. After the event, the follow-up counts. You want to connect with people on LinkedIn with a personal message. I'm not saying send a LinkedIn connect to every single person who was on the event. I'm saying send a message to the people that you met or the people that you connected with in some way and just say, hey, I loved what you said on that event about such and such thing. Would love to be connected on LinkedIn to continue our relationship. Or it was great meeting you in that breakout room. It was a really interesting conversation that we had about whatever thing, right? So by doing that, you're showing that you're not just copying and pasting a generic message to everyone who attended the event. You're showing this person, I remember who you were specifically, and you are who I want to stay connected with. That goes a long way. Send them a little thank you message. Suggest a one-on-one virtual coffee. Send them something that provides value. Like, hey, I remember a couple days ago meeting you in that breakout room and we were talking about how you were struggling with social media. I just saw this person on Instagram who posts these really helpful tips. Thought you might want to follow her. Doing these things is going to solidify your connections and set the stage for your future interactions. But do not add people to your email list. Spam them with their DMs. Send them copy and paste messages. That is a quick way to make sure that you get blocked and that you never get invited back to that virtual event. By the way, studies show that 70% of the people that you meet will look you up on social media. So make sure that you have some sort of a professional social media presence. 40% of LinkedIn users, that's around 100 million people, are active every day. So having a professional LinkedIn account and reaching out to people there can make a huge difference in your follow-up strategy. I hope that you will join us at our next Powerful Women Rising virtual speed networking event. Try applying some of these tips and then share your experiences with us. We're going to be talking more about virtual networking events over on my Instagram. So join us over there at Powerful Women Rising. I'm going to be sharing some more tips and I would love to hear any of yours. Also, if there's a virtual networking event that you are loving, share that with me too. I want to know and I will tell my friends. All right, everybody, have a great day. I will see you soon.